Well, guys, you've been hearing for us saying that we're going to have our elders and staff today share each one a different part of what's going on. And so we're each going to do that. We've been told 3 to 5 minutes. You that know me, there's only one way that can happen, and that is for me to read what my part is. So I'm going to read mine. The rest, they can take the risk and see if they can make it 3 to 5. I know I can because I've timed this out. We have been announcing that we as elders share a bit on where we have been, where we are going, and where we sense God leading us. I get to go first, so let me start with a very brief history of where we have been. I was hired by Pastor Lee Hotchkiss of EV Free Church in Chico in November of 2000 with the title of Associate Pastor, and the job description, this is what Lee said, create ministry. That's a great job description. Just do what you want to do. And oversee the youth ministry. After about 10 years or so of serving as associate pastor and creating ministries, Lynn and I felt led to create a ministry for young marrieds that would meet between the services. After 1 to 2 weeks, we had folks asking if it would be okay if they have their single friends come, their parents come, etc. After about 9 years, we were having about 250 folks gathering weekly in the gym in between the services, and it was discussed by the elders and myself how to deal with the confusion over whether a class that large was healthy for EV Free or hurtful. It was decided that though they loved seeing what God was doing in the gym, it was not healthy for EV Free Church as a whole. They gave me their blessing, the elders gave me their blessing to do whatever it was I felt God was leading me to do, even if that were to start a church here in Chico. So after 19 years of serving the dear folks of EV Free, I resigned and started Firm Family Church in August of 2019. It wasn't a church plant. It wasn't a church split. It was what I call a church launch. That was almost 7 years ago now. When we did launch, we let folks know that the church would adopt the same vision statement that we had as a class and that we sensed God was blessing. And we just wanted to follow what he was blessing. Something I've been sharing from this pulpit ever since being here is every member is a minister. And that some of us are in vocational ministry, meaning we get paid to minister full time. Or as a friend of mine once said, we are paid to be good. Everyone else in the church is good for nothing. That's you. Something I have shared often with family, friends, and our elders is I do not want to stay one day too long or leave one day too early as the paid pastor of this church. I am turning 72 this year. I know I don't look a day past 60, but it's true. And I've been asked more often recently, when are you going to retire? Mostly by my friends who have already retired. I want to share today that I with great confidence can say for me to retire from paid vocational ministry at the end of this year is a healthy time to do so for myself and for this church. The fun challenge for me is to see if I can be good for nothing for my remaining years. What this means and what this doesn't mean. It means many of you will not even notice a difference around here as I'm not going anywhere. It means I won't be coming into the office every day. It does not mean I am stepping down from ministry. Lynn and I plan on serving and fellowshipping here until the Lord takes us or he comes for us. It means the way I'm wired, and doesn't necessarily mean it's good, it's probably bad, but it is the way I'm wired, is that to be on payroll, I have never felt a freedom to take a sabbatical or go on vacation for a month or two. To not be on payroll, I feel the freedom to go with Lindy on a trip across the U.S. that we have talked about for years, where I get to go to see everyone I want to see, and she gets to go to every site she wants to see. I know that my furthest, one of my college roommates is in Canada on the very, southeast corner, so I know we're going that far. And then the ocean starts, so I don't think I know anybody out there, but we're going to go far. It means I won't feel the weight that comes from being seen as the lead pastor. It means I will be attending the staff meetings, trying to be good for nothing in them, to give input on decisions and plans that are made in them. It means I will still be serving as an elder and hopefully shepherding this body in similar ways that I have up to now. It means that Lynn and I will still be offering parenting classes and marriage classes, as that has been something we've been doing since 1988 or so, and plan on doing as long as we feel people are profiting from them and they have passions, as they are passions of ours. It does not mean we will form a search committee and go to find someone to hire to replace me. We have to this point hired from within, and if God continues to grow our church in the months, years ahead, we will be looking to hire from within once again. You are in, and this is in all caps, so I have to use enthusiasm. Sierra, how do I do that? Sierra Chauvin knows how to do all this stuff. You are in great hands with Tony and Micah as 2 paid pastors who are paid to be good, and 4 other elders who are equally as committed to leading and loving this church. We are so very blessed to have such a committed, godly, passionate men with great vision for this church. As I've told you many times, I wish every pastor could pastor a church like you are. I cannot thank God enough for the privilege and joy it has been to be one of your paid pastors, and will continue to do so through this year until January, until I enter that stage that hopefully of being good for nothing, along with all of you who make this church what it is. Staple 1, 3 minutes or less, I did it.
I just want you guys to know that working with Will and for Will has just been the greatest pleasure of my life. And I pre-read his remarks, and they brought tears to my eyes, and they do it again. But I'm excited to share about something new, a new initiative we're starting here at Firm Family Church that really goes to the heart of what we're all about. Over the past year, Micah and I have collaborated to create a plan to develop future Christian leaders. And to be honest, Micah really did most of the heavy lifting, but I'm up here to take credit. And for lack of a better term, we're going to call it our Elder Development Plan. And the reason we're doing this is we don't know exactly where the Lord is leading Firm Family Church. I know a lot of church leaders like to say this is exactly the plan, and we're going to have it, 3 years, 6 years, 10 years. And I've always found that it'll be a little presumptuous when we're supposed to be following the Lord. But we do know some things. We know that healthy things grow. They grow in size. And as we used to say when I worked in research for Rice, it grows in vigor. So it grows in size and in quality. And if God continues to grow us, we're eventually going to need a second service here, or perhaps plant another Firm Family Church somewhere nearby. Even now, we occasionally lend men from our teaching team to another local Chico church who's searching for a pastor. There will be other churches in Chico that are going to need good, godly leaders in the future as well. And we don't have any secret plan to create a second service on August 15th or to plant a church in some particular building that I'm not telling you about. We really don't have things laid out that we're just keeping back from you. But we want to be well positioned with a deep bench of leaders to be ready for growth as the Lord gives it. We also know that Jesus commanded us to grow the kingdom by making disciples. And to do that, we want to take advantage of some of Firm Family Church's strengths. We feel that Firm Family Church is uniquely blessed with a lot of fantastic, potentially elder-qualified men, and we want to maximize that. We want to cultivate that. We want to encourage that and come alongside them for the good of Firm Family Church, but also for the good of the Big C Church of Chico. At its root, discipleship is taking what Jesus taught and what we've learned through both success and failure and sharing those lessons so that we can all stretch and grow together. So, on May 26th, our current elders and pastors will begin meeting with a group of elders in training. Again, we don't know what terms to use, but we've invited 12 men from various ages and stages of life to pray about joining us. 6 so far have said yes, while others are still praying about it or have declined for this season. And I want to say this, if you weren't a part of this initial invite, please rest assured, this might be our first elder development, whatever we're calling it, class, team, plan, but Lord willing, it won't be our last. I think the more qualified Christian, good, godly leaders that we can pump out of this place, the better. We're going to do it from a variety of angles. We're going to create conversations around the culture and the vision that we have for Firm Family Church. For example, we'll discuss how to choose the right hills to die on and when it's okay to agree to disagree. You may not know this, actually. I don't think I fully understood it before I was an elder, but while our elders deeply love Jesus and we deeply love one another, we actually hold many minor differences in our theological positions. And we feel that this is a feature here at Firm Family Church, not a flaw. That our leadership culture is strong enough to bend, and we have some flexibility in some of these minor positions that we don't want to create division over. And we want to pass that culture on to others. And finally, a 12-month program, a year-long program where we're taking longer, we're going to be meeting for like 3 hours at a time. I think it creates an environment where we can build trust and relationship with one another, and I think that's a fantastic foundation for a healthy church going into the future. And now I'm going to hand it over to Micah to explain more of the details on how we're going to do it.
I don't think this has ever happened in Firm Family history, but we're like 10 minutes ahead of schedule. So with that, I'm going to say two things before I jump into this. The first is, this is an irregular Sunday. I should have said this earlier. We don't do this every Sunday, right? Normally, someone's going to be up here teaching through the Word. Today, we're doing it a little different where you're hearing from each of the elders. So just know that if this is your first time, please come back next week. Actually, we're going to be starting Luke. So this is irregular, so know that. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and I don't know, I might get in trouble saying this, but I don't think so. A important part, I think, of being an elder, it's one of the challenging parts, but also an important part, is that when there's disagreement, you present a united front, right? And so if I disagree, I'm going to still say, hey, us as elders are doing this. But I'm going to tell you something that I got outvoted on because it doesn't really matter in the long run, so I think I'll get away with it. I wanted us to be up here all together. I said, I think all the elders should be up here together, and we disagreed on that, and I got outvoted. But I just want to tell you that because we do really love each other, and we really are united, and there is one front. And I was like, guys, we go up there by ourselves. Like, that's going to kind of look bad. But they were like, anyways. It doesn't matter, but I just wanted to say that because I don't want you thinking, like, why aren't they together? We are together. We love each other deeply. We're a united front. We just didn't want to stand up here for 25 minutes. Well, I wanted to, but thanks. Yeah, they're with me in spirit. That's what they say. Well, okay. Anyways, I'm just kidding, kind of. But anyways, Tony shared a little bit of the kind of the big picture with the elder development plan, and truly, he said, "What are we calling it?" There's a couple things that I'm going to say in here. We just made up terms for it, right? Like we're kind of creating this on the fly, and so all these phrases we're just making up, and we'll see if they stick. But I wanted to just share a little bit about kind of the more nuts and bolts of what we're going to be doing with that elder development plan. The goal is that it's going to be divided into kind of two parts. So Tony mentioned one, it's going to be a year-long class that is meeting monthly. We'll meet once a month for a year. And then the other half, or the other part of it, is going to be what we're calling a personalized ministry plan. And Tony kind of mentioned this, but the goal behind the whole elder development program is much less about teaching new things to the men that are involved, and much rather about creating a space to kind of share core philosophy, share the heartbeat of Firm, share kind of the biblical foundation for why Firm does what it does. Our desire is to create a place where the future elders will have a shared conversation, have a shared vocabulary as we discuss those things, and then they're also going to get to hear from each of the current elders kind of about what makes them excited about Firm Family Church. So there's going to be 12 meetings, like I said, once a month for a year. So they will get to hear from each elder twice throughout the year. And each elder is just going to share during those classes a little bit of a passion to them and kind of how they play that out in Firm Family, what about Firm Family excites them, and how they live out their role as an elder in this ministry. And then the class is also going to consist, we're going to walk through this document we're developing called our core document, pretty original name. But it's just kind of an outline of Firm Family's principles and then kind of how we put that into practice. We're going to be walking through that as a group together. Lord willing, that one I would love to, once it's kind of finalized and developed, I would love to put that online just so people can kind of see here's what makes Firm, and here's how we live it out. and then we'll be walking through our statement of faith as well. And then the last part of the class is going to be we're reading through 3 books together. Tony mentioned one of them. One of them is on theological triage, and so the idea with that is kind of discussing which theological points are worth dying for and which ones are worth laying down for the sake of unity. The second book we're going to be reading is on intergenerational Christian ministry, which if you've been around Firm at all, that's what Firm is. That's what we do, so it's a book about that. And then the third book is just kind of looking at the qualifications of an elder through Timothy and Titus. We'll be going through that together. And then the second part of the program is what we're calling that personalized ministry plan. And the idea behind this one is that each participant is going to have some type of boots on the ground ministry, right? Because doing ministry is not just head knowledge. Our goal is not to just develop men who knows what it means to be an elder, but rather to develop men who will be eldering in a variety of ways. And the reality is that the men we're asking are already doing this. That's part of the reason why we're asking them. So it's probably going to look less like starting new things, although I got some ideas for new things, but less like starting new things and more like coming alongside and saying, hey, how can we further your ministry? How can we equip you better? How can we grow it? And that's going to look, we're calling it personalized ministry plan because the different men we've invited are at different seasons of life, and so it's just going to look different for the different men. But excited about that. And then at the goal is at the end of the class, so Lord willing, next summer, is that we would make these men elders of Firm Family Church. We would be announcing it to the church, and then we would be inviting and expecting the body to be in their homes, to be seeking their counsel, to be following them as they follow Christ. Here at Firm, we don't have elder term limits, and so that means the hope and the dream and the prayer would be that these men will be elders for the duration in some capacity, kind of indefinitely. So I just wanted to end by really asking you to pray with us. Please be praying that this next year would be fruitful. If you find yourself thinking about Firm on a Tuesday night, and actually I would ask you maybe even set an alarm on your phone every Tuesday night at 7. We're only meeting on the first Tuesday night, but extra prayer is always good. Really, please be praying for this group of men. Pray for the program to bear fruit. Pray for unity and for love to deepen. Unless God is moving, anything we do is going to be in vain. And so we have been praying, and I would invite you and ask you to please join us in praying. We're going to be starting, like Tony said, May 26th. And then the plan, besides that one, is going to be the first Tuesday of every month we'll be meeting. So please set a reminder in your calendar. Please be praying for us as we lead it and for the men that are joining it. And then I wanted to just say as well, and this is true for what I share and for what all of us share today, if you have any questions, right, we only have 3 or 5 minutes up here, so we're not covering everything. If you have questions, our goal is to be as transparent and honest as possible as your elders, and so either grab us today or set up a meeting with us, and we would love to talk more in depth about anything that we're sharing or the rest of the guys are sharing. That is always an open invite to please ask questions of us as much as you want. So that's it for me, and I think Daniel is coming up next. But we stand behind Daniel united.
It's not a coincidence that the youngest elder wanted us up here for 35 minutes just standing. Some of us might have passed out and fallen down. So I want to say another thing, too, just as like a follow-up. So I've had the privilege of knowing Will for 25 years. I consider him a father in the faith. Like Tony, I would be up here crying if I thought too hard about this. But what I want to think, we celebrated a 50th birthday and a 21st birthday. It was a surprise hoedown for a guy like me coming out of the lifestyle I lived. You would have never expected me to be at a church hoedown for a birthday. But what I want to say is that I can say with certainty that Will is going to be the best good-for-nothing church family member in human history. He lives, breathes, bleeds ministering to all of us and loving us. And the day I don't get a text on my birthday from him, I know he's gone. So I have the privilege of just sharing a little bit about finance with you guys. Some people are going to glaze over, but we want to be transparent here. The goal is just to be able to say, here's where we're at, and then follow up with any questions. In the past, they've given me 10 minutes. Today, I'm only supposed to have 5, so you may have follow-up questions. Feel free to come reach out. Some of us in this room have amazing biological families. Some of us have little to no biological family, or some of us have been hurt by our biological families. But Ephesians 2:19 says, "So then you who are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God." In God's gracious provision, he changed the definition of family. It's no longer just our biological family, but this church family. All of us sitting in this room are family members because of what Christ has done for us. Biological barriers have been broken down. Socioeconomic barriers have been broken down. Geographical barriers have been broken down. And so when we think about finance and how we're stewarding the resources that God's entrusted to us, I want us to think about it in terms of family. Each family has a budget, and each family utilizes that money for the benefit of the people and the mission of that family. And that's just as true for our church family as it is for our home families. I can think of right now just two fun things. So one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is just take a second to think about ways that you have been blessed to be a part of Firm Family Church over the last year. And my hope and prayer is that each of us can already think of multiple ways that this family has been a blessing to us in this last year. Life is full of change, some good seasons, some bad seasons, some seasons of weeping and mourning, some seasons of celebrating. And to have a family of 300 people behind you in every and all seasons of life is an incredibly strong blessing that God has given us. I can think right now of a family that's in the midst of a major health crisis and another family that's inviting them to live in their home. And to my knowledge, those two families did not know each other prior to Firm Family. Or I've been off of Chico State's campus for over 20 years and just had the absolute blessing of getting to spend some time with a college student, Drew, was adopted by our extended family, has come and been a part of it. So that family theme is really what I want to lean into as we look at the numbers. So it's the family finance update. And before I give you the numbers, I want to thank several people that have played a huge role in our church finances. First is Elizabeth Swingle, who was our bookkeeper all of last year until the very end of the year. An incredible blessing to us elders to have somebody that diligently is helping us understand the numbers each and every month. And now she's passed that baton. Oh, yeah. She passed that baton to Eric Harvey, who has continued to give us just an incredible gift of being able to see and understand the numbers from a month-to-month basis. You can give him a round of applause. And then last year, we created a finance committee to give even more eyes on the money and more transparency and more wisdom. And so Steve Johnson, John Wilson, and Carl Hoff have been serving in that role. So please give them a round of applause as well. Okay, so the nuts and bolts. Last year, I spent a lot of time talking about our strategic plan to spend down surplus. Without going into too much detail, the Lord blessed us greatly in the launch of our church. We had this amazing surplus, and we didn't want it to just sit there. We wanted to mobilize it for mission. So we've been able to do that over the last several years. So in 2024, we ran a deficit of $100,000, but it was purposeful. And we wanted to shrink that dramatically last year. And so last year we ran a deficit of $30,000, so a lot less. Part of that was just lowering our expenses. So our staff cost has gone down dramatically over the last 2 years. I told you guys last year that Will chose to take a pay cut, which really helped the finances, and then we sent off Abide and Matt Watkins, and so those two things dramatically changed the expense side of the column. So in 2024, our budget was $625,000, and in 2025, it was $540,000. So an $85,000 decrease in spending. On the giving side, 2024, half the year we had the Abide Church as the second expression of Firm Family Church. And then halfway through the year, they launched out on their own. So giving-wise, in 2024, we had $525,000 of gifts. In 2025, we had $510,000 of gifts. So we had $15,000 less giving last year, but we probably had 20% of our body move on to Abide. So all that to say is the deficit closed. Our move toward the balanced budget was largely dependent on like I said, the staff costs. If our giving stays the same this year, then our shortfall would be about $25,000. So if we wanted to close that gap and fulfill our goal of being back to a balanced budget and not spending more than we make, a family that spends more than they make every year is probably a family that's not stewarding their resources well. If we did that, it would look like a 5% increase in giving for those. There's 88 giving units, which means there's 88 families or people in this church that give to the ministry here. And so a 5% increase would close that budget shortfall this coming year. The elders and the finance committee have all agreed that having 6 months to a year of surplus is a good thing for our church, of reserves. Part of that is 40% of our giving comes in the last quarter of the year. So every month leading up to that last quarter, we run about a $15,000 to $20,000 deficit. So our reserves get drawn down and then refilled at the end of the year. So we're at a point as elders and finance committee where we think that our reserves are about where we want them to be. Our goal is not to see them continue to draw down as we have in the last couple of years. And so Lord willing, we'll be able to see that happen without any changes. And really the key that I want to leave us with is, by God's grace, our family is growing. And we're hopeful that finances will not be a limiting factor for potential future needs of whether increased staff or a multiplying services, all the things that Tony and Micah just spoke about, that the vision, the hope, the dream of the Lord continuing to draw people into this family that are being blessed by Him first and foremost and by their neighbor secondly. If that happens, we want to have the resources ready to mobilize for that ministry. And so our hope and prayer is just that if you feel compelled and you feel like the Lord is calling you to either increase existing giving or give for the first time. We don't really talk about giving or finance here. We don't talk about that much, and we certainly don't pass around a plate or anything like that. So you may not even thought about participating in the ministry that's happening here. But if you do, there's two ways to give. One is online for the tech savvy of us, and you can go online and there's a button to click to give. The second would be there's a box in the back somewhere where you can drop in a check or cash. And so we're very, very thankful. I hope the elders will let you know that I am an optimist, and it's like a grind to even be a realist here. So I am confident that the Lord has great plans for this church, and financially we are doing great. But I want to share with you guys those numbers. So if you like more details, if you're interested in the nitty-gritty, reach out to any of the pastors or elders, and we would love to lay out all the numbers for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. I am grateful to have a committee of guys like that. They've been a blessing to me about my own personal finances, and just to see how they operate with the budget is inspiring to see. It's not my gift. I'm swimming in numbers right now. So it's been great to work with this staff too. I'm very grateful to be here, and I want to give you guys an update about the youth and the children's ministry and the programs that are currently happening, to give you an idea of what goes on here. So I think I'll start with the youngest first of our family. So behind this wall, there's 3 classes happening right now, and they happen each Sunday. The youngest is a 0 to 2 classroom, and we have a couple adults in there every week, giving up one Sunday each month to be with our children and to just pour love into them and to play with them and to try to share God's love with them. The next room over from that are 3 to 4-year-olds, like toddlers, and in that class there's a little bit more of a curriculum, a little more instruction, as we're starting to develop the idea of our vision statement, like helping them to think biblically and to build friendships with one another. Then there's also a Sunday school classroom for the elementary-aged children, and that's more of a lesson plan. There's different components to it. There's just basically trying to help them to become biblically literate of the Bible and be familiar with the Bible, familiar with the timeline of where these stories compare to one another, to help them to internalize and memorize Scripture, and to also just get to know one another and become friends. That happens every Sunday. And there's also, you'll see children in our midst here, and we are welcome. You're welcome to have your kids here. We say it often that the noises of our children are a celebration. They're not something that we discourage. We encourage it. But we just like to have that option. There's on the information table back there, if you want to see more details of our kind of philosophy of the children, you can take a look at it. It's really well put together, and it explains your options you have, that we have. So moving on to the next age group higher, when they enter in junior high school and high school age, we have a program going that we call, there's these acronyms. So there's several groups, and maybe raise your hand if you've ever been to one of these. Have you ever been to either a Mafia meeting or a Waffles meeting or a SOS meeting or a Saltines meeting? Yeah. These are small groups, junior high boys, junior high girls, high school boys that meet together weekly in different places, in homes. Some of the younger guys we meet at different parks around Chico. And the purpose is to build friendships and to also get into God's Word and develop that habit of being in God's Word and discussing it together and being part of a discussion and how does this apply to our lives so that we might live more distinctly. So those are happening weekly. We're coming to the end of a school year, and summertime looks a little bit different. We'll be meeting as one big group weekly. We have a couple retreats happening. We have the high school retreat, which I was up here sharing about earlier. We have a day to a water park for the junior high. So summertime looks a little different than the school year, but that's what's happening. So if you ever have questions or want to know more details about any of those age groups or anything happening, like all of us leaders, please feel free. We'd love to have coffee with you or chat with you and tell you more and help you understand. And if you have ideas for us, or if you're interested in becoming part of that team and helping in some capacity, I'd welcome you to join us and hear more about it. And I think I beat my time limit there, Micah. So we're ahead of schedule. Thanks for hearing me out.
Yeah, we all got a text this week from Will that said, I wish all pastors had a church like you. And I texted him back and I said, Will, I wish every church had a pastor like you. I've been going to church for 71 years, and I've seen a lot of really good pastors. But Will and Lindy are unique. They're one of a kind. We're all one of a kind, but when it comes to ministry, they're very unique. And here's a suggestion for us over the next few months while he's still being paid to be good. Take he and Lindy out to lunch or have them over and tell them some of the ways they have blessed you. Now, I think Will's phrase of the best is yet to come, I think that's true for them as well, both personally, but in their impact for us. So I get to talk about missions. Missions is discipleship writ large. It's making disciples of the whole world. Now I'm going to ask, would all of you stand up? I've been sitting a long time, but it's good to stand up. I want you to all say this together. Missio Dei. Now like you mean it. Missio Dei. What's that mean? It means God's mission. God's mission is to restore creation to his intended purposes. And we're invited to get to be a part of that. And so here's my next thing. If you have not been on if you've been on a short-term mission trip anytime in the last 3 years, please stay standing, and everybody else, please sit down. This is remarkable. Now, this is not the only mission things that happen, but our church is engaged in global discipleship in a way that I haven't experienced in 72. You can all sit down now. And short-term trips are part of that. If you go over there and look at the global impact map on the wall, go look at that. And we're investing, again, there's some missionaries that are paid to be good missionaries. And some of them are on that board. And I tell you what, we've got some of the real thing over there on that board. People really giving their lives strategically, sacrificially, and with great impact all over the world. And that's financial support. We have a whole nother group of our short-term things that are very good. We have several, I'll call them bivocational missionaries who have kind of a regular life, but they are sending themselves on missions like Sky. We have people like Becky and Gabe who have, and Tony and Megan, I would say, who've emerged from our fellowship and have moved into really extreme impact. Last thing I want to say, making disciples in missions means writ large. Have any of you heard of the concept of sphere of influence? I think this is it's areas where you have influence. Now, I haven't done this yet, but I want to make a map of Chico and shows where our influential believers are serving in their jobs. There's some really good stuff going on through our spheres of influence. That is every bit a part of mission as it is for the professionals on the, only some, and maybe fewer than are called to full-time cross-cultural ministry. All of us are called to make disciples within our sphere of influence. It's a thrill to be in a church engaged like this.
Check the time here. How many minutes now do I have? Okay. Well, I had a short version, a long version. I left the long version at home, so stuck with the short either way. Well, before I do that, I just wanted to say about Will. The first time I met Will was when they first came to Chico, and they lived fairly close to us, just a couple blocks away. And I didn't know him, but he came walking up the driveway when I was outside, and we talked for a while, and I thought, man, he's a friendly guy. And little did I know that you would be one of the most influential people in my life. So thank you, Will. My part today is just introducing an idea to create some topical type classes. There's 2 in mind right now. We've tried this once, and we'll try it again, and we'll see what the interest in is. But it's very much in line with what Ken was just talking about, of creating disciples, and there's all different elements to that. So these are 2 unrelated. I think the format will probably be like a small group that's only 5 or 6 weeks long. So don't be afraid of joining something thinking you're joining for life. And and it's not starting yet, but there'll be more information coming up, and it'll start relatively soon. But please, if you have an interest in this, please come and talk to me today, just to kind of get a general idea of what the interest level might be. This winter, I took a class that a friend of mine was leading at Bidwell Press on forgiveness, and in going, part of the reason I went is because he asked me to go. They were hoping to get people from different churches, and did. There were about 5 different churches represented, and in thinking about that, I thought just how not necessarily neglected, but in terms of its importance. Just think when we went through the Sermon on the Mount and read through the Lord's Prayer, asking for God to forgive us as we forgive others. And then 2 verses later in Matthew, there was the verse about, remember, if you forgive others, God will forgive you. If you don't forgive others, God won't forgive you. I mean, that's what the words say. There's a lot of conversation about what that exactly means, and I think most people agree that it, at the very least, it just means forgiveness is something held up very highly. And we need to think more about that. Almost everyone I've talked to over the last few months since I took that has thought, boy, I can think of some areas in my life that that can apply to. So, and then another way that came up was by, if you know Tim Keller, he died probably about 2 years ago now, I'm thinking. But he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 2.5 years prior to that. And in between that time, he wrote a book called Forgive that was kind of like his ideas, what he wanted to leave people with, which is a great book. There's so many different, when you talk about that subjects, there's so many what ifs, or how do you think about this situation or that situation, and what does forgiveness mean within that? So we'll delve into those kind of things. So that's the one class. And then the other area is I'm a big fan of Gavin Ortland, as a few people are in here. He writes and talks about Christian growth, issues regarding Christian unity, and as Tony mentioned, and Micah too, that the book Right Hills to Die On fall into that category. But he also received his doctorate in church history, and that's been something since I have listened to him, have got very interested in, and just how so often we think, well, we know a lot about the first century church from Acts and other books, and we know what's happened more or less since the Reformation in the 16th century, but we know very little about what happened in between. And there's a lot of good videos right now that are little chunk by chunk explanations of what happened in different times throughout church history. And they always start with a video on why is it important to think about and know about church history. And some of the things I condensed from those were, it connects us with our spiritual roots, creates an appreciation of the creeds and the councils throughout the years, to gain wisdom from past mistakes of the church, and there have been many. It inspires us with examples of faithfulness among people or groups throughout that church history. It helps us in understanding our present Christian church, allows us to see more clearly how God worked through the church for the past 2,000 years. So we won't do every one of those 2,000 years, but we'll look at chunks along the way. So anyway, I invite you to, like I say, talk to me, and then look for more information coming up on that. And I think that is it. So